right, ladies and gents, welcome to another Resource Insider update. Today, I am sitting down with none other than Gilbert Clark, the executive chairman of Meridian Mining, a company that we at Resource Insider invested in just about a year ago now, just under a year ago, at 20 cents with a half warrant at 30 cents. And Meridian has announced some really interesting news today. It is Tuesday, September 7th, 2021. And Gilbert and I have a lot to talk about. The goal of this conversation is to really provide investors and potential investors with an update on, what is Meridian up to? How did they get to where they are today, getting these fantastic results? And what can people expect out of Gilbert and team over the coming months? So, Gilbert, how's it going today? You're having a good day, I assume.
Yeah, today was a huge day. It was, we traded over 7 million shares. We're up 50%. It was great, solid buying. We delivered today just the start of the exploration upside that's outside of the Cabasal mine. So the Cabasal mine is what we focused on when we presented it to Resource Insiders in December last year. And we said, look, there's upside with this project. And today we published the first step in that, bringing the value of that upside into our.
So when we put this video out, it's going to go to Resource Insider members first, but later this week, we're going to go send it out. We'll put it on YouTube and send it to a wider audience. So for people that are not familiar with the Meridian mining story, what are you guys doing down there in Brazil in sort of the 30,000 foot view? What have you been doing? What's the goal?
We picked up a project called Cabasal, which is a complete VMS, volcanic massive sulfide system, that's 36 kilometers long. And it was only found in 1983. It had a very short period of exploitation by BP Minerals before it got bought out by Rio Tinto in 89. They shut it down, rehabilitated it, discharged all liabilities, and then literally they then sold it and released part of the ground in, I think it was 2003. So effectively this VMS camp that's been actively defined and explored for, but never exploited in any commercial sense, has sat there for 30 years. So last year we did a deal, picked it up, and it's a company maker. Well, literally, it's not a promotional company maker, but a factual one.
Yeah. So you guys got this asset. We invested late last year. When I invested, I was investing in what I thought was one of the few sort of junior copper plays that I thought had the potential to be a mine in the not so distant future. Skip ahead a few months till today, and I'm reading your assays that are coming out. 26.7 meters at 21.5 grams per ton gold. Now, I'm not going to be complaining about results like that. However, they weren't exactly what we were expecting when we first came in. So help wrap this story together for us.
Okay.
I invested in a VMS copper company. You guys are getting fantastic drill results in gold. What's going on here? What's it all mean?
Well, you can get gold overprinting in VMS systems, but the Cabasal mine, when they mined it, originally they thought it was all horizontal VMS type mineralization. It was only after they finished their drill program that the underground geologist, like Rocky Osborne, who advises us, went underground and started mapping these subvertical, very high grade structures that are trending northwards. And when they really started to understand the deposit, Rio Tinto basically said, shut down all exploration, finish up the reserve, and then we're going to shut it down. So this high-grade zone extends out of the mine. Okay, they never actually exhausted. They exhausted the data that supported the drill data that supported the resource, but their mining ended in mineralization.
Okay.
So to the northwest of us is like a 750 meter gold and soil anomaly, quite a strong one. And there was an historical hole that had 3 meters, got the numbers here actually, 3 meters at 237 grams per ton in a vertical hole. So we drilled north of that about 50 meters, and we announced last week 11.7 meters at 5.7 grams per ton gold. Then we stepped out again, and boom, 26.7 meters at 21.5 grams per ton gold. But that's still within a zone of over 50 meters of copper, gold, silver mineralization. So we're still in that VMS system. And interestingly enough, that VMS system is actually dipping down towards one of our other big targets, our known targets, which is the Cabasal West conductive plate.
Okay, so let me try to spell this out. So you've got the main Cabasal historic project here, and then about 750 meters to the north, this is where you've had these two drill holes, right? Where you've had such spectacular, I guess it's more like that, such spectacular.
To the northwest, northwest.
So you've had these spectacular results. So I guess the question, when I look at this, I'm thinking, well, what's everything in between here, right? Is this a separate standalone deposit up here? Is it a one-off sort of great drill hole? You know, you got your historic mine down here, or in a perfect world, does this all somehow connect and you've got mineralization throughout and the potential for really, you know, a massive, massive project? How are your geologists looking at it at this point in time?
Well, that's the whole process. You know, from the edge of the Cabasal mine, where they only selectively mined it, they didn't, you know, they took out 850,000 tons. To the northwest of that, everything's been drilled vertically on 100-meter spacing. So every 100 meters, 40-meter holes vertical. And if you've got a vertical structure through there, you're just not going to hit it. So we're going to have to go through it like a fencing exercise of angled holes northwest and southeast of those current results.
And so when you say it's been drilled vertically, I mean, you're talking about drill holes that are straight up and down, basically, right? Into the ground. And so the implication, what you're saying is like a narrow kind of deposit can hide in between those drill holes. Is that the idea? And then you got to take a drill hole and instead of sinking it down beside it, sink it through it, right? Is that kind of, this is like geology for idiots, what I'm doing right here, but that's basically what you're saying, right? This was
geology 101.
This was hiding between past drilling, essentially. Am I getting that? Okay.
Absolutely. But what's exciting for us, not just this one structure we've hit so far, is that in the gold mine itself, back in Cabasal, 700 meters to the southeast, it wasn't one structure of high-grade gold. There were several. And we fully expect, with a good angled drill program, drilling to the northeast, because this is dipping to the southwest, that we're going to probably hit multiple zones. We've got the strong possibility to replicate what they hit in the gold mine of these multiple high-grade zones.
I'm recalling back to when we first invested. One of my concerns was, I said, you know, is the grade potentially a little on the low side? And you said to me, well, you know, maybe throughout, but you had these potential for these high grade shoots throughout to find that would substantially elevate the grade if you were able to find them, if what was there was what you thought was going to be there. So this is an example of those high grade shoots, right? These were the things you were looking for.
And you know, every meter of that at 21 grams per ton is like $1,200 US rock. I mean, that's fantastically wealthy rock. And it's from 60 meters down, so it's absolutely open pit, low cost mining. Really, really exciting for us.
And so you kind of mentioned, you know, this is in this, you know, high grade shoot is contained within this copper VMS environment. Can you kind of paint us a little bit of a picture of what's wrapped around this sort of high grade shoot right now?
Like even above this zone, from 50 meters down, we hit 10.7 meters at 0.7 copper, 0.4 gold, 1.9 silver. So that's probably about 0.95 copper equivalent or thereabouts. So, and then throughout that entire zone, which the actual zone was about 57 meters, that 53.7 meters. And that hit, the gold's also, of course, supported by that very high grade hit, but it went 0.3 copper, 1.3 grams gold. With, you know, within that we had various high grade zones. And we've seen that similar flat line. That's really a flat line copper gold mineralization. We've seen that in a couple of the vertical holes, which trend back to the Cabasal mine. So we're in a very large system, open, and as we knew, and we've actually intercepted a few of these high grade veins in the Cabasal mine, but because that was expected and it's within a known mineralized envelope, we didn't halt the stock. You know, we've hit 3 meters at 12.7 grams gold from 6 meters at depth, 2.7 meters at 14 gram gold from 86 meters within that big copper sulfide envelope. So we knew that. You know, that's part of what we expected.
So that's around the Cabasal mine. That's the area you were just sort of expanding. You knew about this area.
Yeah, what we brought to the Resource Insiders back in December.
This was the massive step out up here, right?
Yeah,
so
it's huge.
Because you guys, for people watching this, you know, some context, you guys did halt your stock. Was it Thursday? I believe Thursday. Yeah, it was Thursday.
Oh, huge night.
I closed the market, and you know, you opened it up again today with the release of this news, and you guys rocketed up to north of 70 cents today.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a phone call at about 11:15 from Adrian, and boom.
Yeah, and Adrian is the CEO and
CEO,
also PhD
and
geologist and leading this program. Yeah, okay.
And he said, look, I said, are you sure about it? So, you know, I called up the company lawyer, go on standby for 15 minutes. We went through the QA/QC, which is the checks and balances from the assay laboratory, make sure everything lined up.
Quality control and quality assessment for people at home.
Yeah. And I said, are you absolutely certain? He says, well, Adrian's, I know, 2 meters 10. The man's enormous. And he says, I'm standing a meter away from the box, and all I can see is a sprinkle of gold bits there. So, I mean, it was...
okay. Yeah. So we know, you know, people at home, we know that volcanic massive sulfide deposits, VMS, they kind of occur in these pods, right? They come up from black smokers, basically underwater volcanoes that deposit mineralization in kind of little tiny mountain pods, right? Underwater, to make it very simple.
Yeah.
So when we look at this here, are we thinking, all right, up here to the north, have we found another pod? Is this a small, tiny little deposit? Or is this part of something bigger that connects to the historic mine? How does geologically, and I understand this is still kind of early days in the exploration program, how are you guys thinking about this and the potential for this? Or maybe better put, what is the next steps in the exploration program to really figure out what you got on your hands here?
Well, in the exploration program, we have to follow. We are going to follow this up. This is just such a massive upside to the project. The tricky part is now this is not the sole gold soil anomaly we have. It's not the sole copper anomaly we've got. So now we have to go through and rank them. So our number one copper target, geophysical target, is Cabasal West. Of course, our number one gold target is of course the Cabasal Northwest extension. But at the same time, as we develop this real great upside, we're doing what we told everyone we're going to do in December. We're developing and confirming our underlying asset. So no matter, you know, that way, from what I do, which has always been equity management, I ensure that my asset growth has a fundamental, my equity growth has a fundamental underlying asset to support its valuation. And I think we're grossly undervalued. And our upside, which is related to Greenfield's exploration discovery like today, is just evolving at a fantastic pace.
Okay, so can I try to summarize this? And you can tell me where I get this wrong. So okay. The goal going forward is you have the Cabasal mine, Cabasal West, to continue to explore and reassess the mineralization there, working towards a new resource there. Is that correct? Am I correct in saying that?
On Cabasal West and Cabasal Northwest, it's exploration discovery. Cabasal mine is resource development confirmation.
Okay, so Cabasal mine, resource, Cabasal West, okay, exploration discovery. Cabasal Northwest is Northwest extension, where you just made this discovery, further sort of exploration and building out what you've found there. And then you're also looking at these other high grade soil anomalies, these targets you've got, both gold and copper, for I'll call it more exploration style, sort of not quite grassroots, but more exploratory drilling, right?
Yeah,
and
but we can't afford ourselves to spread ourselves thin, because that's not good for management, or also for just company and human resource management. We've got very focused on because we have to focus on the Cabasal mine for our option agreement, but we're deploying funds into those high priority exploration targets and delivering great success.
Okay, so I guess fundamentally, what does this, I'll call it a discovery, but yeah, this discovery you've made up to the northwest, what does this mean for the project as well? How does it differentiate an investor today than it was, last year when I invested? What's different?
Well, it's absolutely very critical for the company, because and really that's why we hold the stock. Cabasal, the mine, is the asset. And now, but that was a known mineralized envelope that was open. And what we're now defining is another mineralized open envelope, which has got actually stronger economic potential to be developed into another independent project within the belt. So underlying asset and the potential to grow our asset base through this discovery. It's I guess it's not a normal promotion that a CEO presents, a mining CEO presents to investors, but I'm out of equity management. So I'm all about growing my equity, not taking risk with my equity, and deploying my capital responsibly. And really the funds that we received in that raising in December, which a lot of it came from resource investors, well, we're at 20 cents. We're now 3.5 times multiple on your investment. And I think we've got a lot more growth to go from the money that the guys supplied to us.
Okay, so stock's been underpinned by Cabasal. Now you've got basically the upside potential of these discoveries you've made now. Yeah. What do people have to look forward to over the next, let's say the remainder of this year? What should investors be thinking about now? Either people that have just come in or are contemplating coming in, or Resource Insider members are all up almost 4 times. Why should they hold on to their stock? Why should they contemplate, remaining part of this story after we've already had a huge win here? What do people have?
Well, what you have to look at is sort of look at comparable, say in this instance, gold successes. We could look at Andean Resources and their Serra Negra deposit. That was a fantastic transaction, but whereas Cabasal Northwest is superior grade. Fruta del Norte, another gold success, great transaction. Fosterville, that was an old mine, but it had great exploration upside, very well managed company. And all of these things have got comparable, or we've got superior gold intercepts. So that's the type of valuation we should be aiming for this company. We're still down in the sub $100 million. I think we can greatly grow that and really take it to what this is. And Cabasal is not a small cap project. This is a mid-tier mining project. And we've got to now work to grow our equities to represent the equities of a mid-tier resource development company. And that's not a 3 or 4 times. And a great analogy is Andean in the fund that I was with. Wasn't my investment, but it was a replication of what can be achieved. And Dean was I think a 60 times multiple from first investment. And so my milestone really is to beat that. And our first investment that I managed was 7 cents. So that means I've got to beat it for, that's my first milestone of success is to get above 60 times that 7 cent raising I did in July of last year.
And that puts you in, $1 billion plus company. If I do that.
Yeah, look, in a really satellite view, to find a mining province which is heavily endowed in metals, as is Cabasal, which has regional modern geophysics exploration definition by one of the majors at the time, BP Minerals, Rio Tinto, have everything at near surface, and have no environmental or historical environmental liability to transact to, to discount the valuation of the company, there is no comparable project in a tier 1 jurisdiction like Brazil. You can't.
Something I like about this VMS project is in recent years, VMSs have kind of been like the bastard stepchild of the mining industry. You know, they've lost a lot of their shine to porphyries,
Yeah.
but I mean, some of the biggest copper assets on the planet are VMS, right?
Yeah, and they're multi-decade cash positive projects. And what's really interesting about when you compare it to porphyries, in a junior company develops a porphyry and it's a $2-3 billion market cap. Well, sorry, capital cost to build it. And that means the equity component gets wiped out.
Well, they can't do it, right? They sell.
You can't do
it. Is there an example of a junior actually putting a porphyry into operation?
No, they can't.
I can't think of it. Yeah,
they can't do it. And actually, well, they're not really a junior, but groups like Lundin have been very successful at doing that.
Yeah, they don't have a problem with access to capital, though.
Yeah, and we don't really have an problem with access to capital. All of the board are from managed funds, and we have a Rolodex of managed funds. But the capex required to develop something like Cabasal means that your equity component is minuscule compared to that. And you can
let's talk about that, right? Because if you're I'm going to use sort of pretend numbers here, but if you're $100 million company and you've got to raise $3 billion to put a mine into production, that basically totally destroys your existing shareholders, right? So it's not feasible. And the problem with that for people at home is to think about this. When you have a company like that, the majors know you have to sell it to them. So that puts them in a pretty strong negotiating position. Whereas I think when you have a VMS deposit, I think this is where you're going, Gilbert, is that it allows a lower capital entrance cost, right? Where you're able to sort of stage that and put it into production. And when you have the option of putting something into production, you can go to the table, if you do want to sell it, in a much stronger negotiating position, where you can say, well, if we don't get the price we want, then fuck you, we're going to build it ourselves, and away you go.
And we have the wealth of people to bring into this project. The commodity houses, I know those guys. The project finance banks, be it KfW, SocGen, one of the main of mine's director of SocGen, great guy in Sydney. So we're not, the board in this company it's not your junior company. And we've got the networks, the industry capacity, and let's not take that away from the team in Brazil who are delivering this. I mean, they are delivering. And, we have mine builders, administration, environmentalists, mining engineers, geologists, technicians. They're all in-house. So we're not relying. And, to achieve that, what's going to cost, how are we going to do it? That's why we brought Ausenco in very recently. We brought them in to do internal scoping study, give us a ballpark estimation of what the size of the equipment, what the cost is going to be. And then we can start talking, how are we going to finance this? Is it going to be 70-30 debt equity? Subsequent to any necessary technical studies and financial studies of that 30% equity component, how can I reduce that by advanced sales or short-term?
So just an optimization, of the project. And for people at home, Ausenco Engineering is one of the largest mining sort of construction and consulting firms in the world, based out of Australia, but with projects all over the Americas, including extensive experience in Brazil. In fact, they were working for Equinox when I worked there, doing our helping.
So that's really what we're doing. Is we're deploying the funds that we've received. Some of it's incredibly exciting, like holy smokes, 26 meters at 21 grams per ton in gold, fantastic. And that's really what you want to see. But at the same time, I'm taking some of those funds and putting it into the really boring stuff that nobody wants to look at, so far away from a PFS or anything, or a DFS. We're doing that base load engineering, environmental studies. We've actually received the final tenders for the environmental studies, doing that now so that we can get all of our estimations, documentation in place, so when we go to apply for our development permit, which is basically the next pre-stage before mining. Everything's done in advance. It's
So this
boring.
is basically just laying the groundwork for this to be a real mining company someday. And what's necessary when the big financial institutions come in and do their due diligence, and when you're looking at raising multiple hundreds of millions of dollars or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
they'll look at it as a risk matrix. Okay, who's doing the engineering study? Oh, it's Asenco. Have they built in Brazil? Yes, tick. Who's your environmental group? Oh, it's this group. Yeah, they've been active in Brazil since 20, 30 years, tick. So it's all about decreasing your risk on project finance, because the more you de-risk that aspect of a mining project, the cheaper the project finance is.
All right. Gilbert, before we say goodbye, I want to touch very briefly, 26.7 meters at 21.5 grams per ton, gold in Brazil. I mean, like, that's mind blowing. Like, there aren't many holes like that you see. I mean, I was trying to think about it. I can think of maybe one project in Brazil that's ever had comparable results to that. I mean, does this stand out in what you've seen? How have you guys been talking about this and thinking about this?
That's one interval within now 150 meters of drill results, and it's open. I spoke with one of our advisors, and he thinks it's pretty much one of the best holes ever that's come out of Brazil, just solid gold. I mean, and it's not an interval carried by one assay. It's 123, 1.6, 2.2, 137, 127, 16, 377, 19, 0.7, 1.5, 0.6, 0.9. That's the higher grade core. So say 80% true thickness, that's about 7.2 meters of solid 71 gram gold within a 26 meter zone going 21.5. This is not look, I've got a little gold vein that's popped the entire interval. This is a solid, massive, strong metal zone. A part of 150 meters of continuality, which we're now going to expand to the northwest and back to the southeast towards the Cabassal mine.
All right.
And hopefully repeat.
So for everyone listening home, that is Meridian Mining. The ticker is MNO on the Venture Exchange, the Toronto Venture Exchange. Gilbert, anything I didn't ask that I should have that you want to touch on?
No, look, just a big thank you to the support that the Resource Insiders and yourself have given us since from December, and subsequent to that, we're hoping that we're performing to what the shareholders' expectation. And as I've said, many of the people who've contacted me, I work for you. So if you've got a query, just send me an email.
Well, I still expect that 60 times return, Gilbert, but this is a pretty good start. So no complaints on our end. All right. Thanks for taking the time today.
No worries. Thank you, John.